record right now. You'll probably get that notification on your screen. Before we really get going, I do have a question for you. I'd love to hear your answer. You can feel free to put it in the chat. It is this, maybe not a super festive question, but an interesting one nonetheless. How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? If you don't mind, open up your webinar chat. Let me know how many you think. And there is a reason behind this question. We're actually getting ready for next year's NEO Summit, which is called the Nonprofit Innovation and Optimization Summit. It's a conference we put on annually, and this year's theme is game show themed, and we'll have a fundraising feud event. And so we're actively collecting data about fundraisers and your opinions on a whole bunch of stuff, everything from what's your default gift array to how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? What do fundraisers think? Chaz says 638. Thank you for your participation. Others can jump in and let me know there as well. Feel free to drop those numbers and your thoughts in the chat. Emmanuel says 402. Roxanne, solidly at 3. 1, 2, 3 crunch. I got you. I'm with you. Here's what you could expect at the NEO Summit. Again, it's a ways off. It's next September, but now's the time to start planning for it, especially if you've got to get budgets in and stuff before the end of the year. Making sure you can get the best price on tickets would mean that you should purchase your ticket now and before the end of the year. But the NEO Summit is 2 full days of speakers and content, all focused around how can we as a sector in the nonprofit space grow generosity together using data-driven tactics, research-based strategies. Many of the speakers that you'll see at the event actually come from the for-profit space who have really innovative ideas that we think can be applied in our context as fundraisers and nonprofit marketers in order to grow generosity in a meaningful way. So most of these speakers that you will see are not running the normal nonprofit conference circuit. They're unique. They'll be new, lots of new insights for you. Here's what a couple folks have said after this past year. Marissa at Coral Reef Alliance said this: NEO is obviously a good time. It's not only been really valuable educationally, but it's also been a ton of fun. I'll show you a few pictures as to what that looks like. We really go deep in terms of investing in the theme of the event, having a ton of fun together, investing in networking opportunities. We went to the College Basketball Hall of Fame this past year just to kick the event off. So you can go meet new people, people who think like you, are trying to solve similar problems that you are, to just encourage each other and learn together and have a ton of fun along the way. On top of that, there's so much good content that you're going to walk away with really applicable insights. Danail Sparks said this after just attending the first morning of the workshop before the event. So he hadn't even been to the full event yet, but he said this: there's so much information that was applicable. It won't just change the way that we approach donors, but it's going to change our philosophy of why we're even talking to them in the first place. So these aren't just quick win tactics. There's certainly some of those, but it's really changing our mindset. How do we think about growing donor relationships and how we articulate value proposition, all sorts of things, driving us towards new innovative ways to grow giving. So I would encourage you to go check out niosummit.com. You can learn more, you can get your tickets, make sure you get those in before the end of the year as budgets start to turn over and all that sort of stuff. We'd love to have you join us in Dallas in September. Again, the most popular question that we ever get is this: is it going to be recorded? The answer is always yes, so we will send that recording out. Secondly, we will be sharing links to the slide deck and all that stuff. If there's any resources that I mentioned, which there will be a few at the end, we'll send those links out to you so you have those, so you don't have to just take super fast, copious notes. We'll send a bunch of that out to you. And then we will try to reserve some time at the end. We've got a lot to get through, but I'll try to reserve some time for some questions so we can dive deeper on topics that we haven't had time to cover as much as you might like. So that's what you can expect from today. Let's dive in and talk about how to maximize your online fundraising during the last week of the year. Now, I would love for you to actually answer this question. Again, open your chat if you don't mind, and let me know, did you hit your Giving Tuesday goal? Now, some possible answers are on your screen here. Maybe you crushed it. Maybe you missed the mark and didn't quite get there. Maybe Giving Tuesday came and went and you missed it, you forgot about it, didn't know it even existed. I'm not sure where you're at, but if you'd let me know in the chat, how'd you do on Giving Tuesday? How close did you get to your goals? So drop it in the chat. I'll be on the lookout for those. And there's a reason I'm asking, because what we're going to look at first, before we dive into tactics about the last week of the year, is actually looking at where does the revenue come in during the year-end season, because sometimes there are misconceptions about where revenue comes in and what days of the year-end season are really the most important. So let's pause here for a moment and ask this question. Why should you care about year-end fundraising so much? Obviously, if you're here and you're watching this webinar, you're here to learn about how to grow year-end fundraising. So you certainly care about it, but why should you care about it so much? Here at Next After, really our primary goal is this: to help nonprofits like you grow their digital fundraising. And we do this in 3 ways. We're a research lab where we conduct what we call mystery donor research. We go sort of take the pulse of the nonprofit space to see what are organizations doing to try to raise more funds and grow giving. But looking at what people are doing doesn't tell us what works. So we have to put the best ideas to the test and decode what actually works to grow generosity. We do a lot of that testing through our digital first agency as we're working with different organizations day in and day out. And then everything that we learn through research, through testing, through our agency work, we turn into training like this webinar and other courses and tools and ebooks and all that sort of stuff to go equip you as best as we can with what we're learning works. And we conducted this study a couple of years ago. This was based on 2020 data, where we wanted to understand what's really going on in the year-end season, not just in terms of where does the money come in, but also in terms of what are nonprofits doing specifically as it relates to multi-channel communication to try to reach their donors and inspire them to give generously during this really critical season. And so what we found, and one of the very first questions we asked in this study, was just purely, how much money is at stake? And what we found, looking at the organizations that we work with, is that during this 2020 season, 35% of online revenue for the year came in during the year-end season, which we define as November 15th through the end of the year. Fast forward a year, so this is last year's data, we found upwards of 45% of online revenue came in for certain organizations during that year-end window. 45% of online revenue for the year, just during the year-end season. And so the point here is not to say you can expect exactly 45% of your revenue this year. It's to say that there is so much at stake during this season. If we want to see this type of result, we obviously have to come with an intentional strategy and a plan to be present with our donors and inspire them to give. What's really interesting is just high level looking at how many organizations participate in the year-end season. Here's what we found in this multi-channel year-end fundraising study we conducted. 37% of organizations sent nothing at all to their postal donor during the year-end season. During this 45-day window leading up to the end of the year, 37% sent nothing to their postal donors. And while the number is smaller for online, it might even be more shocking because often an online donor might expect instant communication. And it's really easy to send an email out, but 13% of organizations sent nothing to their online donor during the year-end season. Again, if we want to see this significant amount of revenue come in during year end, we have to participate, because if you are not communicating with your donors, somebody else is. And it might not just be nonprofits either. You're competing with for-profits who also want a portion of your wallet during this season. So there's a lot of communication going on. There's a lot of clutter to cut through with our communication. We have to be present. Now, again, addressing a common misconception that often comes up when we look at where does the revenue come in during the end of the year. You hear a whole lot of hype about Giving Tuesday. You certainly heard a whole lot of hype about Giving Tuesday last week. You probably participated, ran some campaign. I see Emmanuel says you had some really big increases, some missed and decreases, even out to just about hitting the goal. That's kind of what we've heard across the board. It's kind of a split result from what we've heard from other organizations. Some blew their goal out of the water. Some missed the mark totally. Some are just getting there. So kind of mixed results. No matter where you land on that spectrum, whether you crushed your goal or you missed it entirely, let's put it all in perspective. Giving Tuesday brings in about 4% of online year-end revenue. So during this 45-day year-end window, again, November 15th through the end of the year, about 4% of the revenue in that time frame comes in on Giving Tuesday, which is a significant amount of revenue. So don't get me wrong there. But in perspective, it's not the most important day of the year-end season. If you just compare it to December 31st, the last day of the year, 20% of online year-end revenue comes in that single day. So there's a whole lot more at stake on the last day of the year. And then if you look at the whole last week, you zoom out, look at the full last week of the year, 47% of online year-end revenue comes in during that 7-day period. So there is so much more to come. Whether you blew your goal out of the water last week, that means that there's so much more to come for you. That's incredible. You crushed your goal and there's lots more to come. If you didn't hit your goal, it's okay, because there's still more opportunity to kind of make up that difference and still hit your overall year-end goal. Obviously, we run a lot of A/B testing experimentation, so we like to look at percent lifts and percent decreases. December 31st leads to 334% more revenue than Giving Tuesday. The last week of the year, 924% more revenue than Giving Tuesday. So there's so much more to come. And when we're looking at overall participation during the last week of the year, it's pretty interesting to see that 18% of organizations are sending mail during the last week of the year, 58% are sending email during the last week of the year, which means that there's a good amount of organizations that just aren't showing up during that final week. So don't be one of the people that sits it out. If you want to see significant results, you have to come to the table and participate and be present with your donors. All right, so that's a lot of just kind of benchmarking, setting the table, putting everything in perspective. How do we actually get the most out of the last week? We're going to look at 3 key categories of tactics and strategies and channels that you can sort of pull some levers on to try to drive more motivated traffic that's going to actually convert and lead to more generosity. We're going to look at what you should do with your emails during the last week. We're going to look at what you can do on your website to get the traffic that's showing up to your donation page and motivated to give. And then third, we're going to look at your donation page itself and what are some of the things you can do to try to boost conversions. If you're driving more traffic, how do you make sure that you move those people towards actually completing the ultimate goal and giving before the deadline? We're going to start here with emails. Now, some of you have certainly already been going through our year-end fundraising course. It's available for free for you right now through the end of the year. You can access that. I'll share a link at the end. You can check that out if you haven't been in that course yet. If you've already started that, you've seen kind of a previous year-end training from us, some of this might be review for you. But what I want you to know is you're going into the last week of the year. Primarily what we're trying to do, we're not trying to go rehash all of the reasons why someone should give. But we are trying to increase urgency. We're trying to remind people of the deadline. We might be adding incentives to help someone understand, why should I give more rather than less? Or why should I give now rather than later? We're increasing urgency. We're not rehashing the full value proposition. Ideally, you've been articulating over the course of the season through email and other communication why someone should be giving, what the goals are for next year, what's at stake, all that sort of stuff. Now, if you haven't been doing that yet and you don't have a robust year-end email campaign plan, we have a lot of tools to help you out. Even though we're, what day is today? Today is December 8th. Even though we're 8 days into December, there's still time to insert a few different emails, some cultivation, some appeals before the last week. So you might use this tool as sort of a guide. But I'd recommend really 3 primary categories of email communication. Number 1 is priming. Everything I've kind of highlighted in orange for you here is a priming email. It's not a direct donation appeal. It's not even like a soft donation ask. These things are really focused on building the relationship. They're focused on cultivating the donor, bringing them into the story of impact, helping them understand where donations go and what they do, who they're impacting, how much of an impact, how far a donation can actually go, things like that. These are priming emails. You're not expecting to get revenue directly from them. You are expecting that, if you're priming for something, you're expecting that it improves what comes later. What comes later is actually the direct appeals. So cultivation often leads to more effective appeals that would come later, which is the second category. You certainly want a good amount of appeals throughout the season. Again, you've got a few weeks left. There's still time to craft 1 or 2 and insert them at some key points over the next few weeks. But then this final category is really where we're going to focus today. After you've sent out some cultivation, maybe you've sent a survey, you've sent some testimonial emails, shared some stories of impact, you've sent a couple of appeals, maybe you've sent on here, it's called the year-end overview email, showing what are you really trying to raise some funds for this season? What's the goal? What's at stake? What are the incentives? Is there a matching challenge? All that sort of stuff. Then you get to these closer emails. And the closer emails are designed to increase urgency, remind people to give before the deadline. Now, I have a whole shtick I do around this slide where I talk about this guy named Bobby Jenks, who's this incredible closing pitcher for the 2005 Chicago White Sox. If you want to hear me talk all about that and how much I love Bobby Jenks, you can go check out the full year-end course. But the main point here is that a closing pitcher, as you know, comes in at the end of the game, they throw some fastballs, they strike everybody out, and hopefully help you win the game. But if you put them in at the very beginning of the game, they're not going to be as effective because their arm is going to tire out quickly. They might strike a few people out, but then they're going to start getting hits off of them and getting some runs, and they're just not as effective at the beginning of a game. They're designed to sort of close the deal. Same thing is true of these emails we're going to look at. If you put these really, really high urgency emails all the way back on December 8th, today, if you send this out, it's not going to be nearly as effective as it will be if you send it on December 30th or December 31st. So the first closer email that I want to look at is called the deadline email. Not the most creative name in the world, but it's going to be impactful. Primarily, as you're designing this email, I want you to keep this in mind. We're trying to remind donors of the impending deadline that's coming up real quick without rehashing all of the reasons to give. I want to show you one example of what this might look like. Now, there's probably room to improve the design here, but I think it's an interesting example from the Special Olympics here, because almost everything in this email is doing one of two things. So I'll highlight basically half of the email for you here in red. Everything that is in red is trying to drive urgency, helping someone understand why should I give now rather than later. Urgency is not adding new fundamental reasons why I should give in the first place. It's helping me understand why I should give that gift now rather than later. You need to give before midnight tomorrow. There's a giant countdown clock in the middle of the email. It says, give now, give now, give now, give before midnight tomorrow. It's making sure that you know that a deadline is coming, and if you want to give your year-end gift, you've got to get it in now. Everything else in this email that I'm highlighting in green for you on your screen is designed to add an incentive that's focused on, again, not giving you brand new reasons why you should give in the first place, but giving you reasons why you might give more rather than less. So your gift in this case can be tripled. You can give triple the support, and you can give triple the joy. Your gift will be tripled. Your gift will help 3 times as many athletes get access to healthcare, 3 times as many athletes step off the sidelines, 3 times as many athletes live in a unified world without discrimination. And if you look at even the call to action URL at the bottom, it says specialolympics.org/triple your gift. Everything in this email is driving urgency, or it's adding incentive. It's not rehashing all the fundamental reasons why you should give in the first place. Ideally, you've already communicated that over the course of the season. Now, again, we don't want to just copy examples because they look interesting or they sound cool or because we see a lot of people that are doing them, because that doesn't tell us what works. It just generates new ideas. So we have to put them to the test. And we have, in this case, version A and version B of this email sent on the last day of the year are very similar, but there's some key differences. Version A, we'll just look at the character counts here, has 1,146 characters articulating why you should give on the last day of the year. Version B has, if you will, 32% less value proposition copy. The focus of the copy is more on reminding someone to give. It's not rehashing all the reasons to give in the first place. It's reminding someone of the deadline. What did this lead to? It led to a 30% increase in donations by just sending a kind reminder of the deadline, making sure that they know they need to give their gift now if they want to get it in time. Donors are busy people, and so are you, so am I, and sometimes we just need to send a kind reminder. In fact, you might actually need to send a second reminder. You might need to send a reminder of the deadline email, and that's closer email number 2. The goal of this email is to send a personal email that looks like an email that you and I might send each other in Gmail to make sure that they didn't miss the deadline email. Not to make sure they didn't miss the deadline, but to make sure they didn't miss the email that you sent reminding them of the deadline. Maybe that sounds overly complicated. It's very simple, and we'll kind of break it down. Here's a great example of what one of these emails can look like. I know it's kind of an older example, but good copywriting is timeless, So if you look at the timestamp on this, it says December 31st. This is sent at 10:06 p.m. So you're less than 2 hours out from the midnight deadline to give your gift. And it says, Pam, just wanted to send you a quick note to make sure that you receive this email. I don't want you to miss out on the chance to double your gift. And down below, it inserts the original deadline email that only has a little bit more copy, quite honestly. Today's your last chance to double your gift. You can help children and families. Please, while there's still time, click here and give. Thank you for remembering those in greatest need as we ring in the new year. This is the original email that they sent earlier in the morning. You can see, again, the timestamp. It says 9:45 a.m. on December 31st. What they're doing in this case is just mimicking normal human behavior in the inbox. We often say that people give to people, not to email marketing and not to marketing machines. They give to people that they know and trust. And so we're trying to build human relationships in the inbox. Now, if you're waiting on someone, if say you're working on a project and you've sent off your part of it to somebody else to go then pick up and take, and you're waiting for them to respond, to complete their side of it, and you haven't heard from them yet, and it's like, we're getting kind of close to the deadline, I need to get that thing from you, you're probably not going to go write them a totally brand new email with all the details in it again and all that stuff. You're going to go find your original email. You're going to hit reply, and you're going to just add a note that said, hey, still waiting on this from you. Or, hey, do you think you'll have this in time? Something like that. You're just sending a quick, kind reminder, hopefully a kind reminder. That's how humans behave in the inbox. And so what we're trying to do here is mimic that same behavior, not writing a totally brand new appeal, just basically making it look like we hit reply and said, hey, just want to make sure that you didn't miss this. That's all we're doing. And again, we're not trying to just copy interesting examples. We want to put things to the test and see, does this actually work? Does mimicking normal human behavior in the inbox actually lead to greater results? And so this is a brand new experiment, just validated on Giving Tuesday last week. Version A is a resend of the email that they had sent in the morning of Giving Tuesday. So they sent this initial appeal email out, and then later in the evening, they sent it out again to people who hadn't responded yet. Wanted to make sure that they had the chance to see it. If you look at open rates, say you're getting a 24 or 25% open rate, that means 3 out of 4 people that you emailed definitely did not see your email. So you might just send it again to make sure they have the chance to see it. And that's what this organization did. They sent this long form resend email, just basically shooting the same email out to people that hadn't responded. That's the control. But they wondered if we could send this more forward style email by inserting the original email below and then adding a kind note on top that's just reminding of the opportunity to give before the deadline. So this is the treatment. At the top, it's kind of longer form still. It's got a couple paragraphs, but it's focused on reminding them about the deadline, making sure that they saw the email before, that they didn't miss it. And then down below, you can see the original email in its full length. This is the original email right here. If you keep scrolling, you'd see all the rest of it. This is the control and the treatment side by side. Version A is the long form resend. Version B is just this forward style reminder. And guess what? The forward style reminder led to a 73% increase in donations. So consider this as you're sending those deadline emails out towards the end of the year. Obviously, send out that deadline reminder. Make sure that people know that the deadline is coming. There's an opportunity to give. Add some incentives. If you've got a matching challenge, you can get a free thank you gift that's valuable, something like that. And then just send a kind reminder as you get close to the deadline, a couple hours out, making sure that you're present in their inbox, reminding them that, hey, if you want to give, the time to do so is now. We're running out of time. So there's a quick look at some things that you can do with your email. So hopefully that's helpful for you as you're planning out those final communications for the year. Secondly, our second category that I want to dive into is looking at your website. Email is a really powerful and a really effective channel. You can control the conversation all throughout. You're sending an email, you're starting the conversation, you're setting the tone for it. You often see really high conversion rates if you're looking at Google Analytics, you're looking at all your different channels and traffic sources, you're going to see really high conversion rates from people coming from an email. But during this season, something kind of unique happens where a lot of the direct traffic to your website, people that are just typing in the name of your organization.org, or they're finding you through a Google search, or maybe even coming to your website through a referral link, oftentimes there's a really high motivation to give during the season, which makes sense. It's year end. People are trying to get donations and charitable donations in before a deadline. You've got this campaign that's running. You're probably seeing it in multiple places if you're an ideal donor for your organization. How do you make the most of the traffic that's showing up outside of just that email channel? They're showing up through direct traffic, through organic search. We want to make it as easy as possible to get them from where they land to the donation page with the right motivation. That's really our key concept, our key goal here. How do we make it easier for people to find where to give during this critical time? Let's look at some tactics. This is just kind of a mock-up of what your homepage might look like. If it doesn't look like this, that's okay. The point is to show you, here's all these different tools that you can sort of insert on your homepage and around your site in order to draw attention to something. In this case, a year-end opportunity to give. You can make sure you've got clear donate buttons. You can use something called a sticky bar that either sticks to the top of the page or the bottom of the page. It just is a little call out reminder about a deadline or a goal or a different campaign that's running. You might use native placements on your homepage to call out the opportunity to give. You can use different types of pop-ups, and we'll look at some different types in a moment. You can use these little slide outs that pop out of the side of the screen as you're scrolling through different content. All these are really just interrupters to interrupt the flow as someone's going through your website, grab their attention, and then try to drive them ultimately to your donation page. If we can get more people to show up on our donation page during this last week of the year, conversion rates are really high during this time, again, because motivation to give is really high. So that's our goal. How do we drive more traffic? Your navigation is going to be really critical. This might sound overly simple, but you might be surprised at the amount of organizations that don't have a clear opportunity to give in their navigation. Now, and I want to emphasize the word clear, and I want to show you why, because you might look at this and say, oh yeah, there's a give button right there. I have a very high aesthetic score. If you take different personality assessments and things like that, I really like things that just look good and they look nice. I'm not a designer, but I dabble in Photoshop and whatever. I like to pretend I am sometimes. And so the part of me that likes to pretend I'm a designer looks at this and says oh, that looks really nice. Those little, what we call a ghost button, it's got the outline outside the button, but really no background. They sit really nicely as an element in that navigation. It looks pretty, it looks really clean. However, just because something looks really clean and looks really nice doesn't mean it's effective. In fact, running this experiment, this organization saw by turning that button into a high contrast green button that stands out, it now says donate on it, actually led to a 28% increase in the amount of people clicking on the button and going to the donation page during the year-end season. So just because it looks nice doesn't mean it's effective. We've got to put it to the test. Make sure that your give or donate button in the top right corner of your navigation really stands out as the primary call to action. It's going to drive more traffic. In fact, it might actually increase overall donations. This is a very similar experiment where version A, everything in the navigation is equally weighted. It's kind of hard to read anyway. It's gray on slightly darker gray, so it's kind of hard to read in the first place. But the donate option is equally weighted with everything else, which almost implies going to the About page is just as important as going to the Students page, which is just as important as going to the Donation page. But they wondered, might we actually call this donate link out with a high contrast color so you can absolutely see it in the navigation. It stands out as the primary call to action, and it led to a significant 190% increase in donor conversions, the amount of people that are clicking through and ultimately actually giving a gift. So make sure it's abundantly clear where to click to go make a gift. That's priority number one. Make it easy to see your donate button in your navigation. All right, let's look at what else you can do on your homepage. Obviously, you can insert different banner ads and things like this. This is a real year-end banner ad from a couple of years ago that is interesting to look at how it performed. Something like this might actually stand on the page and your brain may say, that looks like an ad, and so maybe you want to skip over it. There's lots of ways to use more native elements on the page too, and we'll look at an example that looks a little bit more native and natural and organic on the page. But what's interesting to see is you have lots of traffic going to the homepage during this season, and as they ran this banner on the homepage, what they saw during the first week of the year-end season was that it saw 1.1% conversion rates. That's the percentage of people that are seeing this, clicking through, and ultimately giving a gift on the other end. Pretty high conversion rate, quite honestly, for some sort of banner ad like this. But when you fast forward to the end of the year, looking at this last full week of the year, they saw conversion rates off this ad jump up to 4.6%. Huge jump as you get closer to the end of the year. And I share this with you for a couple of reasons. One, to just emphasize again that the motivation to give during the last week of the year is so high. We want to do all that we can to just make sure that people get to the right place in as few steps as possible, reducing friction as much as we can. But I also want to encourage you that even if you don't have something like this running yet, there's still time and the impact is yet to come. So make sure that you prioritize putting something like this on your homepage during the next week, because even just getting a late start is better than not doing it at all. Now, here's one additional example I want to show you that looks a little bit more organic. It's kind of like a very natural piece of content on the homepage of this website. Version A looks like this. It says, "This Christmas, change a life. Shop now." Version B looks very similar in terms of the photography that's there in the background, but it gets a little bit further away from the branding and look and feel of the campaign that says change a life, and it looks really nice. But it adds more copy articulating, what does that even mean? What does it mean to change a life this Christmas? How does shopping help change a life? Whose life am I changing? In what way? How much do I need to buy in order to help? Well, it clearly articulates that in copy now. You can change a life with a gift. This Christmas, give a gift that can meet a critical need of a child or family living in poverty. When a family receives a goat, education, water, or some other tangible solution, their lives are changed for years to come. Change a life by giving a gift. Isn't that incredible? Just a little bit of copy. There's literally 2 sentences of copy, but the amount of clarity that you walk away with is so much more, maybe infinitely more than version A. You clearly understand what the next step is, how it's going to be impactful, who it's going to impact, and their unique approach to making a change. What this led to was a 35% increase in donations. So as you're calling out these opportunities on your website, on your homepage specifically to try to drive more people to the donation page, consider adding some value proposition copy, helping someone understand why they should actually give, setting up the right motivation of the visitor when they get to the donation page. So do this, use prime real estate on your homepage to increase traffic to your donation page. Let's look at some pop-ups. Everybody loves a good pop-up, right? Let's look at one example. It's a timed pop-up. You know, when you hear the word pop-up and you go back in time, maybe like, I don't know, 8 to 10 years on the internet, and pop-ups were just, there was no such thing as a good pop-up. They're just everywhere and in your face and horrible, and any site that had a pop-up was just like, you don't want, you're gonna get viruses if you see them. That was kind of the feeling that you may have had. I still have the same feeling when you go look at like a food blog and you have this severely long story that you have to read before you get to the recipe, and there's like 20 different ads all throughout, and some of them are pop-up videos and they're making sounds, and it's horrible. Maybe you've had a bad experience with pop-ups, but I'm here to tell you today there's a way that you can use them effectively. Let's look at a few examples. This is just a timed pop-up, again, from a few years ago, back in 2017, but it's a quality pop-up. You can still run the same thing today and see some impact from it significantly. It's calling out right away, the time is running out to give. You've got a countdown clock right there, front and center on the pop-up. This is a timed pop-up, so it appears on the page after you spent a little bit of time on the page. Most tools, you can sort of set how long you would wait until it gets triggered. Maybe it's 10 seconds on the page, 15 seconds on the page. Many of these tools, you can actually trigger them based on how far down the page someone has scrolled, if that is the right placement for it. But this experiment is interesting, looking at how you can position the value of the copy on the pop-up. Version A talks about the deadline. There's a few days that remain to give your gift. But version B talks about an incentive to give. It's reminding urgency of the deadline to give, but also talking about an incentive. Not just why you should give now rather than later, but maybe give even more. Your gift before midnight will be matched dollar for dollar. By putting that incentive front and center in front of someone on the website through a pop-up, actually led to a 56% increase in people clicking through to go consider giving a gift. So as you're going through your website, if you take some time today to kind of scroll through your homepage and maybe some top traffic pages on your website, consider, is there an opportunity to use a timed pop-up to really put this opportunity front and center in front of the visitor to give? You can also use something called an exit intent pop-up if you're not familiar with that term. Basically what it means is if I'm scrolling on your website and I decide, I'm going to go back, I'm going to go to a different website, or maybe hit the X button, the moment that you move your cursor up to the top of the screen towards the URL or the X or the back button, the exit intent pop-up fires, and it might say something like this: before you go, will you consider something? Excuse me, this pop-up from CaringBridge walks through a very short appeal as to why you might give. At the very end, it says, since you understand how the nonprofit CaringBridge works, would you consider becoming a CaringBridge partner? They wondered, could you actually improve performance of this exit intent pop-up by using social proof? And so the call to action changes a little bit in version B. Since you understand how the nonprofit works and how it keeps people connected, would you consider joining 328 fellow supporters in becoming a CaringBridge partner? Now, I'm not just one person out of who knows how many that's making a gift and trying to support the organization. I'm joining this community, in a fairly small community. It feels intimate with 328 people. I'm joining this community of people that are actively giving to support something that I think is actually really meaningful and impactful. Using this social proof to even maybe add a little bit of pressure to join this community and actually give and make an impact. And what this led to was a 12% increase in donations. So as you're creating these different types of ad placements and pop-ups to try to drive traffic, consider, is there an opportunity to use something like social proof to help someone feel involved in a community and part of a bigger movement that's making an even bigger impact? You also might use something that we would call an abandoned cart pop-up or an abandoned donation page pop-up. This is an interesting experiment that, again, just validated last week on Giving Tuesday. Basically, what happened is the control version, someone would come to the donation page and consider giving a gift, maybe even start filling out the form, and then leave. They didn't finish their gift and they would just leave the website altogether. Then maybe they'd go back to the homepage and look at another piece of content or an article or something like that without completing their gift. Version B was targeting those people specifically with this little slide out offer. So if you started that process to go complete a gift or to go make a donation and you never completed the transaction, this would pop up in your future sessions on the website. And it said, don't forget to complete your $30 donation. And you can choose to continue or say not today. And just by adding this little sort of abandoned cart pop out, what it led to was a 41% increase in donations. You may have something like this that already gets sent to somebody's email. You've probably experienced one of those, even if you've never set one up. If you're buying anything on Amazon or other e-commerce websites, and you've kind of started the process, put something in your cart, you let it sit there, you might get an email the next day, oftentimes with like a discount code or something to say, hey, don't forget this is in your cart, make sure you get it today and you can get this discount. It's applying the same idea, but just with a little pop out on the page. So consider, how can you use pop-ups during this last week of the year and during these last few weeks of the year even to drive new donation page traffic, to capture exiting visitors before they leave, and then also to remind people who started the process to go complete their gift. Lots of different ways that pop-ups can be used as a tool to drive motivated traffic. Let's look at in-article ads. This is an interesting type of ad placement you've probably seen on many different news sites and things like that. You might call it a Dear Reader. Version A looks like this. It's just sort of the normal article on the website. It's got this little pop out or slide out offer to go sign up for the newsletter. You'd get a certain amount of people that kind of organically donate after they've read the content, they found it valuable, maybe they find their way to the donate page and actually give a gift. But version B, they wondered, what if we put this Dear Reader offer right there in the article pages? So at the point where you're highly engaged with valuable content, it then jumps out and makes a strong appeal as to why you should give a gift in order to support this type of content that you've just consumed and felt is valuable. And by putting this offer right in front of someone at this point of high engagement, led to a 695% increase in conversions. Because again, you might get a slow trickle in version A of people that choose to donate, but now you're putting it front and center, driving motivated traffic to the page, which leads to a pretty significant growth in donor conversion for people that would normally just be engaging with content, and that's about it. So consider those if you have lots of blogs or articles or news and that sort of thing on your website. You can also go poke around Wikipedia and get some really interesting ideas. We're actually setting up a test kind of based on a Wikipedia test that's running right now as well, which should have some interesting results. But if you want some other ideas as to how can you position this sort of inline ad Dear Reader copy, go spend some time there. They run lots of different experimentation and publish a lot of those results as well that you can learn from. So go check that out. But here's the main point. Add a Dear Reader if you have articles or blogs or news content on your website during this season. The last thing I'll leave you with for your website overall before we look at the donation page briefly is this. This is called a homepage takeover. During the last couple of days of the year, again, motivation to give is sky high. And what we're really trying to focus on is how do we reduce friction in the process to get people from the homepage or wherever they show up to actually get to the donation page. What if you cut out all the steps in between showing up and getting to the page and just put the donation form right there on the homepage? That's the focus of a homepage takeover. So in this example, you would go to the homepage of this organization and you would see a donation appeal right there on the page. If you would scroll down, you'd see a form right there on the page. You don't have to put any clicks in the process to get to a new page to give. It's right there on the homepage. There's always a link and an opportunity to just sort of bypass it. It says, if you prefer, you can go to the homepage right here. But you're putting the opportunity to give right there, front and center, in front of people who are most likely motivated to at least find out more about giving, if not give right then and there. What this led to was an 11% increase in donations overall from people showing up on the website. Specifically, it made a really big impact for mobile traffic, for email traffic, and for returning visitors. These are people, especially that returning traffic, likely people that saw something about your campaign earlier. They're coming back, they're being reminded of the opportunity to give, and you're putting it front and center to make it easy for someone to choose to be generous to your organization. So use a homepage takeover during the last couple days of the year. And then finally, category number 3, your donation page. How do you make sure that the people that are showing up, you're driving all this great traffic from your emails and from your website, how do you make sure that the people that land on the page actually make a gift? How do you improve the process and make sure you're catching as many people as you possibly can? What I want you to do on your page is emphasize your incentives and increase urgency throughout. You're sensing a theme through all of these different categories. How do we drive urgency? How do we add different incentives and make sure that people understand not just brand new reasons why they should give, but why should they give now rather than later? And why might they give more rather than less? Now, I want to just have you kind of step back and pause for a moment and just sort of think about the campaign that you have running. Maybe you've sent out some direct mail. Maybe you have some digital ads that are either going right now or in the works to be going the last couple of weeks of the year. Maybe you send out postcards. You're probably getting emails prepped. You've got people that are on your website seeing opportunities to give. You've got all these different channels that are running, hopefully and ideally. A lot of the time what ends up happening is we put all this work into developing all these different communication streams and all these different channels. And then we send people to the main donation page and just kind of like the regular old page, and we hope that they give. What typically happens, if I'm over here reading a piece of direct mail that I got in my mailbox and it's talking about the year-end campaign and the opportunity to give and what the goal is and what the specific impact is going to be, and I say, you know what, I want to actually go give online, and I go to the URL and I show up and there's nothing on the page about any of the stuff that I just read, I'm going to question if I'm even in the right place. If I give a gift on this page, is it actually going to what you asked me to give to? I might not really be sure. And so if I'm confused and I'm not sure, I'm probably not going to give at all. You end up having this experience of almost like whiplash of, I saw this messaging over here, but I don't see anything about it over here, and it creates a lot of confusion. And so what we want to make sure that we do during this season and during any high urgency campaign is have a cohesive campaign donation page specifically designed for the campaign, in this case, year-end season. There's a few really simple things that you can do to make people feel like they're in the right place. Number one is in your headline, make sure that you mention something about year-end. So in version A of this donation page, the headline said, "You can help secure a better future." Version B says, "Make your year-end gift to our organization." It's not the most creative subject line in the world, but you know what it does? It lets people clearly understand that they are in the right place to make their gift. And it led to a 10.9% increase in donations. Looking at the body copy, the same sort of thing. We want to give clear reasons on our page why someone should give, articulating what's the problem that you're trying to solve as an organization, that your donors are really going to align with their shared values. What's the problem? What's the solution? What ways does a donation actually make a meaningful impact? How does my $100 donation actually do something meaningful? We want to lay out this clear value proposition argument as to why they should give. But in our copy, we also want to remind them that it's a year-end gift and make sure that they feel and they understand fully that if they're intending to give a year-end gift, now is the time and this is the right place. Version B adds just that little line that says, "with a year-end gift to this organization." And it led to a 12% increase in donations. So make sure your copy not only articulates why someone should give, but also lets them know they're in the right place. This is the right place to make your year-end gift. Consider adding countdown clocks to your page, specifically as you get into the last week and especially the last few days. This experiment, version A, has no countdown clock. Version B does, has a very clear countdown clock, and it led to a 61% increase in donations by driving urgency on the page. But there's something that I want you to keep in mind. If you go turn on a countdown clock on your donation page right now, it might not actually be helpful. There's two lines that you see on this graph. This is looking at countdown clocks on a page during a fiscal year-end high urgency campaign. The orange line shows the page that has the countdown clock and the conversion rate over time. The blue line shows the page that doesn't have the countdown clock and the conversion rate over time. And as you can see, the blue line is on top of the orange line most of the time, which means the page that doesn't have the countdown clock is outperforming the page that's trying to drive urgency with a countdown. And those lines start to flip once you get to the last week of the campaign, which is telling us that, early on, when the countdown clock says, "Hey, make sure that you get your gift in, there's only 28 days left to give," that's not actually helping. That's not actually driving urgency. In fact, what it might do for me is say, I have so much time to go think about this and consider it and to delay my giving. But what's going to happen if I choose to delay my giving? I might not actually come back. I might not remember. So we don't want to give people excuses to leave and put off their giving. But once you get to the last week of the year, well, now I might see a countdown clock that says there's only 5 days left or 3 days left. If I see that there's only 3 days left to give, and I'm intending to make a gift, I need to give it right then and there. because there's no chance that I'm going to remember in the next 2 or 3 days to actually come back and complete my gift. So that's when a countdown clock actually drives urgency up, is during that last week. So consider that as you're getting that installed. Make sure you don't run it now, run it for the last week. Progress bars are a great way to help people see and understand the progress towards your goal, to feel a part of a community that's trying to complete some sort of challenge or goal or solve some problem together that can be really impactful, to kind of build some of that social pressure, if you will. And in this case, in this experiment, this progress bar led to a 20% increase in revenue per visitor. So consider using a progress bar on your page to help someone understand how close are you to the goal, what's needed still in order to achieve the goal. Be careful if you're using a countdown clock and a progress bar to not put them side by side. We've seen some indicators that if you put them next to each other and right together, or even right on top of each other, it might actually be more confusing than it is helpful. So if you have both, spread them out. Put your countdown clock up top, then have your copy, and then put your progress bar down below right above your donation form. That way people can clearly process the information in a logical way. You're not creating confusion by trying to put these different graphical elements together in the same spot. Just put them in 2 different spots on the page. As you're considering how you publicize your goals and you ask donors to be a part of achieving a goal, consider using something that's not a financial-based goal. In version A, it says today's goal. It shows we're at 88%. It says CaringBridge has received a $100,000 challenge gift, but it's only going to work if we raise $100,000 before midnight. Would you help? If I can only give 50 bucks, I don't have to do very complicated math in order to figure out pretty quickly that my 50 bucks is not going to move the needle to 89% or anything significant. It might not even move that progress bar a single pixel. My $50 donation isn't going to put much of a dent in the $100,000 goal. But if you use something like a number of donors goal, what they tested was actually counting down to a specific goal every hour. Whether I'm giving 50 bucks or 500 bucks or 1,000 bucks, I know that I can move that 2 to a 1 and I can make an impact on that goal. And what this led to was a 25% increase in donations. So consider, as you're asking for donations, as you're sharing about the goals that you have, consider asking for a number of donors goal rather than a financial goal, and put it to the test. It'd be really interesting to see the results and the impact. Finally, incentives. Incentives, again, as we said earlier on, can be really helpful, not in articulating new reasons why someone should give, but in helping someone understand why they might give more rather than less. But we have to make sure that people clearly understand what the incentive is, and they know with full confidence that when I give my gift, it's going to lead to this incentive. Version A and version B are almost the exact same donation page. They both talk about having your gift matched. Your support today doubles through a $645,000 matching gift. They both have the progress bar counting up to the matching gift goal. But version B led to a 44% increase in donations because it used this orange bar at the top that stands out clearly on the page and says a generous donor will match your donation today. It's going to be really hard to look at that page and not see that giant orange bar contrasting with the other colors, and actually spend a moment to read it and be reminded my gift can be matched. If you're just scanning quickly, you might miss the other copy, but it's going to be really hard to miss that orange bar. So make sure that people really clearly know about your incentives. That's the only way that they'll be effective. Some tools that you can use to implement lots of these different tactics and strategies. First off, if you're trying to use sticky bars like that orange bar we just looked at, or different pop-ups, Unbounce is a great tool for that. It's a full landing page builder tool as well, but they also have what they call convertibles, which is sticky bars and pop-ups. You can implement on their landing pages. You can implement across your website. It's a really powerful tool for that. Sumo is a decent tool. They have like a whole suite of these types of pop-up, slide-out sticky bar tools. And then if you're on a WordPress site, there's a whole suite of plugins that you can go search the library and find different opportunities there. For countdown clocks, if you're trying to insert one in an email, there's a lot of kind of nuance there at this point because iOS has changed how they process countdown clocks. But if you're trying to use that in an email, you can use Motion Mail app. If you're inserting countdowns on a website, you can use power.io. Again, you can also search the WordPress plugin library if you're on a WordPress site. And then for really anything else, any A/B testing, any personalization, any more advanced kind of customizations where you don't really want to go to a developer because you're just trying to move quick, Google Optimize is a great tool for you to use. If you're trying to install those Dear Reader ads, Google Optimize might be the way to do that as well. So you can go check that out. It's a free tool as well. So consider that, getting that installed so you can have some more flexibility in how you implement some of these customizations and A/B testing. we're rapidly running out of time, but I threw a few different bonus tactics in here that I wanted to share with you briefly. We'll try to move quickly and leave a few minutes here still for Q&A. But these are brand new experiments that we saw validity on, that just validated over Giving Tuesday last week, that I think have some strong ideas for you and tactics for you that you can test into during the last week of the year, when urgency is really high. So I want to cover those really briefly. Here's one sort of bonus tactic. Here's version A of the donation page. Version B is the exact same page, but it adds what we've called the humanized sticky bar. And we've seen this start to lead to positive results, specifically on these types of campaign pages, where you're putting the image of a real person from the organization, putting a name to a face, and making a humanized, personalized appeal right at the top of the page. I need your help to bring hope and healing to isolated people. Please make a Giving Tuesday gift before midnight. And here's the goal. Just by adding that sticky bar, it led to a 39% increase in donations. So consider, can you put a warm human face on your donation page in the sticky bar to make a personal appeal? It might lead to a significant bump in your donations. There's one bonus tactic for you. Here's another one. On this donation page, on Giving Tuesday, here's sort of the normal experience. You come to the page, you read the copy, you start to fill out the form, you make a gift. If you're a one-time donor, they installed this as the treatment. If you're a one-time donor, you fill out the whole form, you get down to the bottom, and you click the Make My Gift button, and up pops this little prompt that says, before we process your gift, we have a special opportunity for you to consider. And then it gives this appeal as to why you should actually convert your one-time gift into a $20 monthly gift and become a cornerstone partner, a recurring donor for this organization. Here's all the opportunities, here's the incentives. This actually led, side by side, we'll put them there, control versus treatment, led to a 210% increase in the amount of people choosing to become a recurring donor without significantly impacting overall donor conversion. So this is something that you should consider. It takes a little bit more work on the tech side to install it. If you're using iDonate platform, their new platform actually has this built in, so that might be something to consider as well. A really powerful tool to lead to more recurring donations. And then the third and final one I want to share with you looks like this. Both of these emails are exactly the same reasons to give, same value proposition, but you get down to the call to action, and there's a little bit of a difference. They're both talking to people who have never donated before, people on their email list, on their subscriber file who have never given. Version A says, with this being Giving Tuesday, would you prayerfully consider donating to support the ministry? Version B, small change. I ask that you prayerfully consider donating $10 or more. By asking for just a small donation amount for these people who have never given before specifically, it actually led to a 65% increase in donations. So if you're trying to figure out, how do I activate the people that are followers of our organization, that care about the work but they've never given, consider asking for one of these small dollar donations just to get that first engagement, that first donation, to take that first step. It might be a meaningful tactic to acquire some new donors and then start to build the relationship even more over time. All right, we're running out of time. I want to share a couple quick resources for you, and then we'll get to a few questions. Here's one. You can check this out, nextafter.com/maximize your online fundraising. Probably easier to just scan that QR code. You can go get the ebook version, essentially, of this whole webinar with some quick tactics to kind of keep next to you as you're going through and you're setting up different things for the last week of the year. It'll be a helpful guide for you. But you can also go to nextafter.com/year-end and find a bunch more free year-end resources, from our full course to other ebooks to research and all sorts of things. It's a long form page with lots of different resources to just help you throughout the year-end season. So please go check that out. My goal is to help you have tremendous success this year-end season, maybe lead to the best year-end campaign you've ever had. So if I can empower you with some free resources here, I would love to do so. With that being said, we've got 3 minutes till the top of the hour, or the bottom of the hour, whichever you want to say, where we can take a few questions. I'll stay on even for a few extra minutes too if we have several questions. So if you wouldn't mind, it's always helpful if you would drop those questions in the Q&A. And I see some special elf helpers in the window over here, I think, that are anxious to come in and show off their elf hats. So come on in if you want to. I'll take a look at the questions in the Q&A here. We've got a question from Mary. She says this: do these follow-up emails come through an email platform like MailChimp or Constant Contact, or from the organization's email platform? Come on in, hang out. Welcome. These are the people that are behind the scenes, making sure that these webinars happen and make sure that you actually got here today. I know we had some mix-ups with links. These are the people that are helping you out. We got Riley, we've got Annie. So huge shout out to them for making all these webinars happen to make sure that you can get this helpful content to grow your giving. Again, Mary's question, where do these follow-up emails come from? I don't know exactly what you mean by follow-up emails. If you mean the ones we talked about in that kind of first section, typically we're sending all this communication out of some platform like that. One of our preferences is HubSpot. It's a really powerful tool, tons of automation opportunities within it, lots of segmentation opportunities as well. It's also expensive. So if you're looking for a more introductory level platform to do some more automation, I'd recommend MailChimp. It's a great starting tool. It starts free up to a certain level of context, and even from there is pretty affordable, especially with the results that you can go drive as you build more segmentation and automation. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Mary. Let's see, we've got a question from an anonymous attendee. I don't love to answer questions from anonymous attendees. Put your name on it and I'll answer your question. We'll come back to it. Emmanuel says this, I'd be curious to know more about how to draw the line between these tactics, reminder emails and pop-ups, and making sure to not spam reporters. Great point. I've talked to several of our supporters this year who have specifically expressed appreciation for less fundraising communication and asks than other organizations they support, yet I know that more asks lead to more donations. Emmanuel, this is a really common question and a common experience. It's really easy to respond to sometimes the loud voices that might send you a reply to an email and say, would you stop emailing me or something like that. And you know what? You can treat that person uniquely, individually and say, yeah, I'll give you a break. We actually made this little, like, I call it a pause button. It's just like a quick little form that, if somebody replies to one of our emails and says, hey, you're sending too much. Say, you know what, that's okay. If you're not in a place right now where you can actually benefit from this content, but you don't want to unsubscribe, you can go just sort of pause your emails until a certain date. So that might be an opportunity there. But what I would encourage you to do is to look at your data overall, run some testing, run some experimentation. Oftentimes what people say is not actually how they behave. So consider your overall performance numbers. You've got to keep an eye on spam rates and things like that and make sure that you're not burning out more people than you're actually putting onto your email file. You've got to keep all those things sort of in balance, which can be a challenge. It's not easy. It's a lot of work and it's difficult. But I would encourage you in that, don't just respond to the loudest voices just because they're there in your inbox. There's so many other people that are kind of behind the scenes and maybe didn't reply that are actively responding to the communications you're sending out. And again, typically what we see is more communication is often better than less. There's a point where it can become really spammy if you're sending an appeal every day. That's why we lean heavily into cultivation and into those priming emails that we talked about briefly. Hopefully that's helpful, Emmanuel. I'll mark that one as answered here, and then we'll look at, we've got a question from Jared. If you've got other questions, again, feel free to drop them in the Q&A. But here's the question from Jared. Any thoughts about using video message on the donation page? Jared, I have a lot of thoughts on that one. I don't have an experiment in front of me to share with you directly, but it's in lots of our different training. If you go through our course on donation page optimization, we've run several experiments with video on a page versus text on a page. So basically the experiment is, if you're trying to communicate why someone should give through a video, consider actually testing, taking the same message that's in the video and actually just using text and copy on the page to communicate the same value proposition. What we have often seen, many examples of taking the video, turning it into text and actually leading to upwards of a 500% increase in donations. From what we have seen, it's really, really hard for people to fully digest the reasons why they should give by watching a video. Even if you look at play rates on your video, it probably tells you the whole story. Most people aren't watching the whole thing. Maybe they're watching the first 30 seconds of it and you've got a 3-minute video. They didn't get the whole story. Sometimes you might be showing them one thing, but it might actually be more impactful to tell them in copy, just because there's research that would show that people retain information better when you actually read it. It also might be that when you're reading copy, it's easier to sort of scan through and get the essentials, where a video, you hit play and you sit back and you don't tune out, but it's more passive information coming at you than you actively leaning in to try to understand. So all those reasons might be why the text leads to better performance, but I would strongly encourage you, take that video off your donation page, use copy instead, put that video in a cultivation email that you send out next week. Send them to a landing page where they can go watch it, learn more about it, and then follow up with a direct appeal that leads them to a page that has just copy on it. So that's my recommendation for you, Jared. I also know that's not a popular opinion because oftentimes we put lots of money and investment and time into producing nice videos, but what we've seen is they aren't effective directly on a donation page. Okay, we've got a question. Ooh, and shout out to Riley here who just dropped the link for one of those experiments in the chat. So if you don't believe me, you can go read the whole write-up there in the chat. Question from Brian. Nathan, recommendation for communication with donors after the first of the year. That's a great question. It's something we've even talked about internally is like maybe it would be helpful to put together sort of a calendar template that you can work from to develop communications. One thing that I would urge you to consider is I don't know your program, I don't know where you're at, I don't know where your donors are at, I don't know how often you communicate. One thing that we have seen, we haven't found the cap on how much cultivation starts to hurt. All that we have seen is basically the more cultivation that you send out to your donors, it tends to lead to better performance when you send those appeals later on. In fact, there's a great experiment that looked basically at like a 6-month window where half the file got the normal cadence of communication, half the file got a weekly cultivation email on top of everything else. That group of people that received that extra weekly cultivation led to somewhere around a 45 to 48% increase in revenue because, they're more connected to the organization. They understand what's going on. They understand where donations are going and what the impact is of these gifts, how the problems in the world that they want to see solved are being solved. They're connected deeply and they have relationships with people on the other end inside the organization. So leaning into cultivation in your communications has never hurt. It's only going to lead to more positive results. So I would keep that in mind as you're developing plans for the next year. How do you lean into humanized personal communication sent via the inbox that can help someone build a relationship with you and lean into your organization? So not just appeals, but lean into cultivation. All right, that is all the questions that we have. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for giving us some time today. Hopefully it's been a good use of your time. I just want to say, as we're getting close to the end of the year, we at Next After collectively are so grateful for you. Our vision is to go unleash the most generous generation in the history of the world, and we can't do any of that work without you. So I'm grateful for you this season. I hope that you have an incredible year end. I hope that you hit your goals and shoot right past them and keep going. We are rooting for you every single day. We wish you the best. And hopefully we'll see you on a webinar or another live format content. We'll have lots of kind of new things in the new year, but we hope to see you soon in the new year. Best of luck. We'll see you soon.